discusses a lot about how the mushrooms would be grown, how it would be transported, how it would be administered, and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of pieces to this that I think we all really want to find out here, talking to both of my senators. We have Senator Salmon with us and Senator Donahue. I think they're both fairly well informed about this stuff, maybe more so than I am. And I just appreciate all of you coming today. Let's, where would we like to start out? Skip you two guys for now. These are the representatives that ran it over in the House. Let's start over here. Staff, okay. Well, nobody wants to speak today.
Oh my, just listening.
Can I just flip a coin? Go ahead. I'm sure you want to speak.
My name's Dave Schuman, I represent Bend Farm, Iowa. We're here monitoring the bill. We saw that existing medical cannabis manufacturers are spelled out as kind of having some advantage in terms of applying for a license to manufacture psilocybin in this bill. So we're just here to listen and learn, get a sense of where it's all coming from. I have taken the questions soon.
Okay. Your main questions would be about how it would be raised and distributed. Is that correct?
I think I at least think I have a good understanding of that. There are some, issues, I guess, with some finer points that maybe aren't known at this point, in terms of how much it would cost to for the department to administer the program, which in turn would impact fees that are paid by anybody that might want to produce it. There's a provision in there that they're manufacturing psilocybin, they can't advertise. Cannabis facility would be doing that at this point, so you might want to splice that off so that it's clear they can't advertise and expose to psilocybin, but they could still have cannabis. And I'm not saying Ben Farm would be interested in doing it. It's just something that they tasked me with tracking this bill, so here I am. But okay, some questions that we've raised just from our experience with dealing with the department this for almost 10 years. There's questions about licensing fees and what those would be going forward. Testing protocols, a lot of compliance costs, I assume, would be associated with it with a much smaller patient base. So I came along to listen to the people speak rather than me. Maybe I can't be. There's just questions I have that I can't answer.
Okay. Anybody else over here that would like to speak? Yeah.
Campbell, I represent the Iowa Behavioral Health Association. We're registered opposed. We're the substance use provider, treatment providers in the state. Our members are very concerned about the bill, creating a separate structure of legalizing this. I'm not discounting that there aren't some good studies showing some good research on use of psilocybin with particularly drug-resistant depression, but the FDA is right now reviewing the legalizing of and use of that, and we think that's the process that this should go through rather than creating a separate process in the state to legalize this. I think it's maybe fall, the last I heard is when they were looking at potential approval of a synthetic drug to use for that. It always has to be used in guided therapy. It should not ever be used separate from that. And so we're pretty concerned by how this bill particularly is written.
I believe that this bill does say you have to be with a counselor if you're going to use this stuff. So you want something beyond that?
No, we prefer to go through the FDA process versus doing it this way.
I was not aware that they were looking at this fall already. That's interesting.
That's the last I heard, so I know I put in pushback.
Is that one of those things that it's going to be this fall for 3 or 4 years before they finally get to this fall?
I don't know. I know that there's been more and more studies and research that have supported its use, so as a therapeutic, and we think that it should be used if this is going to be moved from Schedule 1 in some other way. It should be done through the FDA process as you do other medications that are used for treatment of behavioral health conditions.
Okay. Thank you. That's good input. Anybody else over here want to I see Dial over here. You'll get stuck with some of this. What's your comments on it?
Actually, the board actually feels HHS, so we're just here to listen and learn.
Okay.
Interesting.
Anybody online that wants to comment? There should be on the bottom of your page, I think, opportunity to raise your hand so we can unmute you. See a lot of people up there, and I'd love to have some folks that have had experience with psilocybin to say
There's a
something.
hand.
Yeah, Zach, let's see if we can unmute Zach. Can you hear us, Zach?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you good. Yeah, go ahead.
Great. It's not letting me start my video, but that'll be fine. And I will say I have not had experience with psilocybin. But my name is Zach Federico, and I serve as the director of the Veterans and Military Affairs Task Force at the American Legislative Exchange Council. And thank you for the opportunity to share ALEC's nonpartisan research and analysis as you consider this legislation. The ALEC Veterans and Military Affairs Task Force is a nonpartisan group of over 100 state legislators, business leaders, and policy experts who collaborate to develop model policies that support our nation's veterans, service members, and military families. In December, the task force voted unanimously to adopt the Therapeutic Psilocybin Act as model policy. This action reflects a broad trend across the states. Utah, Oregon, Colorado, and New Mexico have already enacted regulated access programs, and this year, several other states, including Iowa, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Washington, Missouri, New York, Massachusetts, and Minnesota, are considering similar legislation. These regulated access programs do not legalize recreational psilocybin use. Instead, they respond to a growing body of research suggesting that psilocybin-assisted therapy may offer therapeutic benefits for post-traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, substance use disorder, and other neurological conditions when delivered in controlled clinical settings. In states that have enacted these policies, the results have been encouraging. In Oregon, more than 40,000 psilocybin products have been sold for medicinal use, with fewer than 30 calls for emergency services. And a recent real-world study from the Oregon program found significant improvements in depression, anxiety, and general well-being. For veterans, first responders, and others struggling with treatment-resistant mental health conditions, the Therapeutic Psilocybin Act offers a responsible path forward. It allows patients who have not found relief through traditional treatments to access emerging therapies while maintaining clear guardrails that prioritize patient safety, provider accountability, and legislative oversight. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, Zach. In Oregon, do they require a therapist to be present when psilocybin is administered, or is this here's your psilocybin, go home and good luck, or how do they do that?
Yes, in Oregon, it's similar to this bill where it's only in medicinal settings. It's not recreational use.
But do they have the requirement of a therapist to be present when it is used?
Yes, I believe that's only in clinics. I think Caitlin on the call could probably speak to that a little bit more too.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Zach? Let's move on to Jasmine. Let's unmute her. And are you there, Jasmine?
Hi, yes, good afternoon. I'm here. I also am not able to turn on video, but my name is Jasmine Owen. I'm here representing Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, and we are in support of the bill. HF 978 establishes a regulated state framework for the production and supervised administration of psilocybin by qualified providers for therapeutic use. This important initiative represents a meaningful step towards addressing the severe mental health challenges facing many Iowa residents, particularly veterans, by creating a strictly regulated framework for psilocybin services and advancing the responsible use of emerging evidence-informed treatment options. Veterans are one of the most vulnerable populations when it comes to mental health. Since 2001, over 125,000 veterans have died by suicide, and 29% of global war on terrorism veterans are known to suffer from post-traumatic stress. The disproportionate incidence of PTSD among veterans is among the driver of the disproportionate incidence of suicide among them. We lose no less than 17, and by some estimates, as many as 44 U.S. veterans to suicide every day, at nearly double the rate of non-Americans lost to suicide each year. Clearly, current mental health treatment options available to our veterans through VA healthcare facilities have been far from universally effective. Our veterans and their families need access to alternative therapies that address the complexity of the challenges they face following service to our nation. As demonstrated by ongoing medical and scientific research, psychedelic therapies are rapidly emerging as an effective tool for treating PTSD, traumatic brain injury, treatment resistant depression, substance use disorder, anxiety, and other mental health indications that fuel disproportionate rates of suicide among the veteran population. Founded in 2019, Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions is a 501c3 nonprofit organization working to end the veteran suicide epidemic by providing resources, research, and advocacy for U.S. military veterans seeking psychedelic assisted therapies for traumatic brain injury, PTSD, addiction, and other health conditions. VETS envisions a world where our veterans have access to the most advanced healthcare options to heal from the mental and physical wounds of war. VETS has supported over 1,100 U.S. Special Forces operations veterans and veteran spouses to access psychedelic assisted therapy treatment abroad, paired with preparation and integration coaching through our Foundational Healing Grants program. HF 978 does not legalize or broadly decriminalize psilocybin. Instead, it takes a responsible approach by establishing a regulated framework for the production and supervised administration of psilocybin by qualified providers under state oversight. The legislation creates a system that includes licensing standards, registration and safety requirements, and appropriate safeguards for participants and practitioners, helping ensure that access occurs in a controlled and therapeutic setting. By advancing a carefully regulated framework, Iowa has an opportunity to join a growing number of states exploring innovative approaches to mental health care while prioritizing patient safety and responsible oversight. With bipartisan support, states across the nation are recognizing the need to act urgently, and Iowa has a unique opportunity to continue leading by example with a comprehensive, forward-thinking approach. By enacting this legislation, the Hawkeye State will not only honor its commitment to those who have served, but also set a precedent for responsible, research-driven policymaking that could save countless lives. Thank you for your leadership and commitment to our nation's heroes, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Could I ask you a question, Jasmine?
Absolutely.
Did I hear you say that this has been used 1,100 times by U.S. veterans overseas or going someplace else to get this done?
So VETS specifically sponsors veterans and spouses to leave the country to access this therapy since it is currently a Schedule 1 substance. It's not available in the US. That's just our organization. There are other organizations that also sponsor veterans and even first responders to leave the country because they currently can't access it here.
Could you guess at how many total people total Americans have already utilized psilocybin?
I don't have those numbers at this time, but I'm happy to get them to you in your office.
But it would be over 1,100 at least.
Definitely.
Definitely. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah. It wasn't you. I think it was a different testifier that said that Oregon has a program, so you don't have to go out of the country. Do you know of any other states that have legalized medical psilocybin therapy?
There are a number of states that have done a regulated access framework similar to what this bill is considering. Currently, there are 30 states total in the nation that are exploring some sort of psychedelic assisted therapy framework, whether it's research support, a regulated access program, a task force, and we can get a full list of those states to you, Senator Salmon.
Okay, appreciate that. But there's none currently. But Oregon?
Colorado, New Mexico, there's several.
Okay.
Several. Okay. Do you have any questions, Senator?
No, I will for them because I think they know more.
Is there anybody else on the bottom? Like scroll all the way to the bottom. I'm not sure we can see the bottom one there. Okay. Okay, Caitlin has her hand up. Yeah, we'll unmute Caitlin. Are you there, Caitlin?
Hi, yes, thank you so much. I am here representing the Reason Foundation, which is a nonprofit think tank that advocates for policies for public health and to protect consumer access. But I'm also here as an Iowa native and the granddaughter of 2 Iowa veterans. So very excited to be able to support this bill today. I won't repeat what the other great testimonies have already said, but I did just want to highlight that This is a very well-established protocol at this point. We have multiple states who've been doing the program for a couple years. So Colorado and Oregon, their programs have been underway since 2023. New Mexico and Utah are just launching right now, and New Jersey just passed legislation and is going to start their program in the next year. So we do have tons of data, best practices from those states. So it wouldn't be, something unprecedented for Iowa to do this. There's a lot of good data and good, good protocols to follow already. They actually did recently released a study of the first 10,000 patients that have accessed the regulated program in Oregon. Very good data there. So I can't tell you how many of those were veterans, but we do know for a fact that we've already had 10,000 people just in one state go through this program successfully. I did want to also highlight that if you hadn't had the chance to speak to veterans, both Reason or I'm sure Jasmine with Vets would be really happy to connect you with some veterans who've gone through this. Hearing from them firsthand is really, really powerful. I've spoken to folks who've been on SSRIs for 5, 6, 7 years with just absolutely no impact. They still have major depression, and then they access these programs and they have 1 or 2 sessions and they report feeling happy again, hopeful again, no suicidal ideation. So it really is an enormously helpful treatment for things like major depressive disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. And I do want to recognize what one of the earlier commenters said about there being an FDA process. There is an FDA process. FDA actually granted psilocybin what's called breakthrough therapy status because they view the treatment as so efficacious and so promising that they want to make sure it's an expedited regulatory review. So there's actually 14 clinical trials going on right now to try to get something that's psilocybin based through the FDA approval process. But we all know how these processes work. They drag on years and years and years. And then further, you have all the issues with big pharma, patenting these drugs. So where we're at, Reason, is we believe that this is some medicine that we know is safe, we know how to use it, and veterans and others deserve access to it now, not waiting 5, 6, 7 years on, arbitrary review processes. So we are very, very in favor and in support of this bill, and we're here to offer any support we can.
Thank you, Caitlin. Any questions for her? All right. Comments from the representatives that worked with this over in the House.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greetings, Senator. It's a privilege to be with you all on this bill hearing. So I'm Jeff Shipley, representing the people of the House District 87. I've been advocating some version of this ever since I got here in the State House in 2019. By then, it was obvious the science was moving in this direction. There's so much I could say. For the sake of brevity, I'll just share with you. I have a lot of personal experience on both the patient and the administrative side. So happy to answer any of the nitty-gritty questions. But yeah, Iowans are doing this anyway. Other states are moving forward, so you are kind of playing catch up and providing that regulatory licensing framework. I think just in closing, I think the main thing will be making sure that good qualified people populate the licensing board who can properly oversee and direct that. But it shouldn't be that difficult because, as mentioned, there are so many resources to draw upon. You're not trailblazing a brand new trail, but you are taking part in a very important revolution in medicine that's happening right now.
Okay. Representative Wills.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for hosting the meeting today. Really appreciate this. I would just start out and say the Veterans Administration is moving towards this, but with the federal government, it's going to take years for them to get this to even this point. Some things that have not been said, I would just like to concentrate on the fact that data shows us, not me saying this, data shows us that 82% of the people who go through this treatment in as little as one treatment see significantly improved symptoms or are cured. Now that's versus being on non-altering drugs for the rest of their life. So I think the choice is clear that psilocybin as a treatment in a controlled setting is the way that Iowans should go. Iowans deserve this treatment. They need to be able to access a treatment that works versus just keeping them on a mind-altering drug for the rest of life.
Questions?
I guess my question would be, because maybe it's sort of been answered, what is the average rate people have to do it, how many times they have to do it for it to actually work for them? I know you said maybe once for some, but is there an average?
That was really one of the breakthrough findings, that you could have just one dose, which could be anywhere from a period of 48 hours of a therapy session. And that the benefit of that would actually progress as time went on. So that's what's really been so exciting about this, is it could just be one dose, but depending on the therapy you need, it could be something you revisit, once a year, biannually, depending on, again, everyone's unique condition and their relationship to the medicine.
And I know you're looking at PTSD, and I've seen documentaries on this for that. I know that there are med-resistant mental health concerns. So are they also gonna be using it for those people as well as just for veterans of PTSD?
So this bill currently is just for PTSD, but it allows the board to adopt other treatments as peer-reviewed data comes forward that shows that absolutely psilocybin will absolutely treat that. So for example, addiction, it has shown promise. Alcoholism, heroin addiction has shown tremendous promise. Not there yet to be adopted. Drug-related, drug, what is it?
Withdrawal?
Drug resistant,
Okay.
depression has shown promise, but the board is set up in a way that they can adopt additional treatments as they become available.
If I may add to that as well, I think that's why it is so important to convene the professionals who can work on this. That is very much a work in progress, and we're very excited about what we might find. What I'm personally most excited about is some of the anecdotal data suggesting that this could have a positive neurological effect. So whether it's a diabetic who has neuropathy, or Parkinson's and Alzheimer's are increasingly a public health emergency at this point. And if this could somehow tie into a treatment for that, again, that would be revolutionary and really help a lot of people. So who knows where we'll be 3 or 5 years from now, and that's why we got to plant the seeds today.
Representative, we have talked a little bit about an amendment on this bill. And right now it's set up to have a separate board, and we're looking at amending this so that it would be under the purview of the Medical Cannabis Board, with the addition of 4 more members, is that correct? Which would have experience with psilocybin or an understanding of the science and all that sort of thing. Are there other things about a possible amendment that you would like to just let the whole committee know about right now?
That pretty much covers the amendment. I think I renamed the cannabis board natural healing board. I can't remember.
Yeah, a different
I
title.
renamed the board so that it would be fitting.
Has there been any pushback from the cannabis board about doing that?
I've not heard anything.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do have some. Can anybody say how it works? I mean, we've heard some marvelous tales about how it can treat depression or drug resistant conditions, but how does it actually work?
I could offer a layman's explanation. There's scientists we could refer to. So one of the world really leading experts is a gentleman, Dr. Robin Carhart, who's got an active Twitter account with a lot of information. But essentially what you're doing is when you look at the structure of the brain and the neuroplasticity, the ruts and the grooves that are in there, you're helping the brain connect to itself, and then you're basically releasing limits from perception. And so it's, again, if you've had a bad habit, neuroplasticity is one of the big terms, and then kind of doing a neural reset where you're allowing the brain to connect to itself. And so again, that's why, like for drug resistant things, if you've had a bad habit, if you've been addicted to drugs, this can help your brain literally form new pathways. So that's a very layman's simplified explanation, but very happy to provide you with more research detailing the potential mechanisms of action.
The way that it's been explained to me, if I may.
Yes, please.
The way that it's been explained to me that it makes sense to me is that when you're in a PTSD state, your brain is like it's on a circuit, and it can't get out of that circuit. So you hear a loud noise and you flash back to that bomb explosion or a gunshot, and can't get out of that circuit. And so your PTSD brain is just on this circuit. Exactly what Representative Shipley just said is it the psilocybin allows your brain to reform those connections and get off that circuit so that you're now an explosion doesn't cause you to go back to that panic mode.
You're
An off-ramp.
adjusting your perception. So your brain puts on a lot of filters on how you cognize and interpret the world. And that's kind of massaging some of that. So you might see things differently in a way.
What about memory? Does it help that?
Potentially, yes. I just think, again, I think that'd be a great question for the licensing board to investigate, but potentially, and there are other mushrooms, culinary mushrooms, legal mushrooms that are sold as supplements for this very thing.
That is true.
Where?
Okay, I got more questions.
Yeah, go right ahead. We
Okay.
want to know all we can.
So, I guess last year when this was in committee and going through the House, I got an email from a therapist that does therapeutic treatment with this. And anyway, she said in a page that she put forward that it's it has a low addiction propensity. And so I guess I wondered if it's got a low addiction propensity, then why can't it be formulated and sold like an over-the-counter drug like Tylenol or something, controlled amount, in a capsule or whatever, and just sold like Tylenol. I don't understand why. Yeah.
Senator Salmon, respectfully, I've been personally asking that question for the last 8 years. And I think at a small enough dosage, if you took this down to a 2 milligram dose, you probably could safely sell it over the counter. And if someone chugged the whole bottle, that would be a different dosaging. But based on my understanding of the safety profile compared to the safety of other substances that are offered over the counter, I think you're exactly right that, again, who knows where we could be, especially when the FDA gets their act together. We might be in a position just as you're describing.
So what I've been told is that if you're using it to treat PTSD, for example, you need to have somebody with you to help you go through that experience. That would be the only thing that I would definitely.
Depends on the dose. That's the big kind of question that the licensing board is going to figure out is the appropriate dosage for things. And so a 2 milligram dose is a lot different than the 1.5 grams that a PTSD patient would use.
Senator Donahue, you had a question about, is this going to only be administered through the University of Iowa, or are there other places that will do that? Are we going to hand the University of Iowa a monopoly on this?
So to that question, so the University of Iowa does have professionals, they have experts on this already. The board would choose the locations and that sort of thing. I don't think personally, I don't think the bill is written that would give University of Iowa a monopoly.
Not that prescriptive, yeah.
But they probably have the expertise to do it.
Okay, so this is so kind of highly regulated in the bill. I just didn't know if, is there more of a free market? And it
Alternative?
made more of a free market,
Not
approach?
yet.
Can that be,
Well, for the sake of theoretical discussion, as I mentioned, are already doing this. So there is a free market, or what you might know as a black market, people who do this without government oversight. Theoretical, I think you supported the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Religious use of substances, not particular psilocybin, but other related entheogens, has been an issue that the courts have accepted as religious use. So, and just so you're aware, there are churches in Iowa that would claim it their religious right to experiment with this.
That doesn't help me at all.
Well, that's the free market for you. I don't know.
Yeah.
That answers your question, Senator.
I was thinking like for manufacture and distribution.
Then I'd refer you to Denver, Colorado, where it's been decriminalized, and therefore they do have a cooperative method where you could go, you can't buy and sell it, you can't commercialize it, but you can go to a farmer's market and trade spores, attend classes, and have community. And if you look on Instagram, you might find some of those communities. They're really public, and so far it's been very self-regulating, where there's been no obvious downsides as far as I can tell.
What about the Department of Public Safety out in Colorado? Have they said,
have-
well, there's more, traffic acts?
They also provide the licensing and regulatory framework to be used as medicine in Colorado, but there is that other decriminalized aspect.
But have hospitals noticed, I guess I'm kind of directing my question to you. You seem to have quite a bit of knowledge about it, but have hospitals noticed any, additional cases of people coming to the emergency room with difficulties due to the taking of this drug, or have law enforcement noticed, more certain types of crimes or certain types of traffic violations or things like that due to use of this drug?
As far as I know, there have been no noticeable complaints of that nature. I'd be happy to hop on the phone and call some folks in Colorado to verify that and get their opinion on that. But as far as I know, that's not been an issue.
I think what we're doing here today with this bill is a long ways from where we're getting with that,
Correct.
you know.
There was a question.
Yes.
I was gonna say, our members have heard from others in Colorado that this has been a problem.
Okay,
That is why they believe they should, and I can follow up and get more details from the texting with the person, she wasn't able to be on the call, but, so I can follow up with more information for you, but that is why they have consistently viewed that this should be an FDA approval decision, because there is therapeutic uses for this. It should be medical professionals and scientific researchers that are making this decision, not a parallel organization at state level doing that. We feel that that's FDA approval, and it is actually being fast tracked compared to other things, because there is a growing body of research on it. But it has to be done in a very controlled setting. I think some of the statements about, depending on the dosage, well, I would hope the state board is not going to decide the dosage. I would hope the FDA would be making those decisions, so that you don't have to spend the money, because I know we're in a budget crisis. There's a fiscal note on this, to have a state board do it. When you have an FDA approval, then it would go through a pharmacist, to a provider, to the person in a controlled setting. So, I think that there are ways to do this. I also represent the Psychology Association, and they had a whole session, continuing education session on this, and the promise of how some of these guided therapies can work in a controlled setting. You get outside of that when people try, people do that with other drugs now too, that they're used for therapeutic reasons on their own. And that's what leads us to problems. So, there is, I think there's, our organization, which sees people that have abused substances, feel that it's much better controlled decision making when it comes from the FDA. And I thought we're working on the FDA moving faster now at the federal level. So, but she did just verify that they're looking at the fall for this.
I look forward to seeing that information.
Yeah, I'll
And Senator, if I may, for the benefit of the committee, I think the key data point you'd want to see is how do adverse events to psilocybin compare to adverse events from all the other psychiatric medications that are on the market? Because I have loads of constituents who I took this drug that was prescribed to me, licensed and regulated as is, and still ended up in the emergency room with a bad reaction. So the practice of psychiatry is very dangerous, and so you'd want to see how does the adverse events compare to other drugs in that treatment class.
That's a good point. Any other comments?
Senator Guzman.
Yes.
Sorry to be late. Leslie Carpenter, Rhode Island Mental Health Advocacy. I have to concur with the comments that Amy was making. I believe the FDA should be controlling how this operates, how it works. There is promise for a select population. The concern that I have is I represent people that have schizophrenia, schizoaffective bipolar disorders. That's a highly vulnerable population for this particular substance. I think relying on the FDA is the way to go. And it definitely is being used inherently, I think, when that substance is administered for the appropriate population. One further comment, anti-psychiatry, there's no space for that. We have so many people in the state of Iowa suffering with severe mental illness, and over half of them don't have access to treatment. Thank you.
Who do you represent?
Iowa Mental Health Advocacy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, guess we get down to where the rubber meets the road. I think I would like to, we got
Although
another,
that's the same person.
Caitlin, you got something you, oh, she raised her hand before, okay. I think I would like to have this conversation with my caucus. Oh, Caitlin is raising her hand again,
She
right?
did raise her hand.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
I just simply wanted to raise that, I understand that the providers are concerned, but this bill really does center providers. And we're not going to run into a situation where someone with schizophrenia is being given this treatment, because the bill clearly requires there to be a bona fide patient-provider relationship and for there to be meetings with the provider before a patient would be given this treatment. So I just don't want us to fall into any fear mongering about that type of oversight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And what I was going to say is I would like to continue this with a broader conversation in our full caucus, which means I got to understand this enough to bring it to the caucus. So I am willing to recommend passage with an amendment, because we are working on some things about the board, which will hopefully mitigate some of the expense and the fiscal note on here. So we're working on how we can make this a little bit more affordable for the state, as well as making sure that it's closely controlled. So Senator Donahue?
Yeah, I'll sign.
Okay. Senator Sanders?
Well, I got another question.
Oh,
So where did this bill's language come from?
So I used both Utah's language and Arizona's language to craft the basis of it, but I used the medical cannabinoid boards framework to set up the board. And so it's kind of like three different sources.
Like you use some of the way Iowa's medical cannabidiol board works, and then the combination of Utah's and Arizona's laws.
Yep. Yep.
And so their bills informed what you did.
Yep.
on
I
this.
gave all three of those to the drafter and then made some tweaks after the first couple drafts.
and for the public's information here, this will possibly go through committee tomorrow. So we have to get all the information that you want to get to me fairly quickly. So with that, I would call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.